Hey, sports fans! Welcome back, PB. He's live here in the studio. And as you see, we got our Bruins shirts on today. We'll talk a little bit about them momentarily. We got to talk about some of the news this week. First of all, NBA All-Star trade deadline the other day. Who was the winners? Who were the losers? We'll talk a little Super Bowl. We got to recap that, baby, because a lot of thoughts in mind about that. And then finally, the Mookie trade. Has it really happened? Who knows? Tuesday he was traded, but it's still not final. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first, let's get into our 2-minute drill. Are you ready for some football? Today, the XFL, it starts, it's back. Vince McMahon, CEO of the WWE, he brings it back 19 years later. Hey, the one thing I like about this league that I'm hearing right now, extra points. First of all, there's no kicks. You have to go for a 1-pointer from the 2. You have to go for a 3-pointer from the 5. You go for a 3-pointer from the 10. Potentially a touchdown could be a 9-point play.
Wow. It's like playing in your backyard.
Oh,
making
my
up your
God.
own rules, you know?
This is awesome. I can't believe it.
We should do fantasy XFL.
Oh, man. Hey, by the way, big UFC fight tonight. John Bone Jones. He goes for a record 14th defense of his titles. I think he's the best guy in the UFC. I do like Conor McGregor, but John Bone Jones wins all the time. Does he win against this kid Dominic Reyes or not?
I'll say he wins tonight, yeah.
I think he crushes them.
Maybe not get out of the first round, right?
Oh, I agree with you on that one. All right. Hey, college hoops, big game tonight. Tobacco Road, Duke and North Carolina. Speaking of Tobacco Road, BC local team had a chance to beat both Duke and North Carolina. They already beat North Carolina earlier. They had Duke on the ropes. 4 minutes left. They're up at 5. They couldn't score a basket again. They lost. Yeah. So it's too bad.
And they're a little bit better than the record show. I mean, they're last place in the ACC right now.
Yeah. And guess who's barely ahead of them? North Carolina.
Yeah. And they're giving teams hard times, you know?
Oh, yeah. Hey, speaking of college hoops, by the way, Bobby Knight, University of Indiana, may make his first official return back to that school today, 20 years after he got fired by them. So we'll see what happens. They play their rivals, Purdue. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I'd like to see Bobby Knight go home and say, hello, Indiana fans, for once. All right, let's talk this whole MLB sign-stealing thing. AJ Hinch, he came out last night on MLB TV. He talked about it, and I found this interesting quote, unquote. Was the game tainted? I don't know. Fans, you have to decide that yourself in the coming years to go. PB, what does that say to you?
That says yes.
Yeah, exactly, right?
That says yes, but I think what he's saying is that fans appreciate the game for what the game is, and they know that sign stealing is part of the game, and they're just going to continue to go with it, and I don't think it's going to impact the fans. I don't think it's going to.
So is the World Series tainted that they won in 17?
No.
All right.
No.
All right. Moving on. Hey, by the way, apparently, our boy, the manager of the Red Sox, Alex Cora, is blamed for all of this. The guy that really did this was an intern. Some intern in the upper office management found a code on Excel, Microsoft Excel, and he figured a way to break the codes.
Kind of sounds like Patriots stuff, right?
It does.
The interns and the videos.
Yeah, that kid will have a job in New England pretty soon. All right. Hey, college sports, the Bean Pot started last weekend, last Monday night. Epic game. BC lost to BU after going up by 2 goals late in the third period. BU scored 3 to take the lead. BC went ahead. Then the game was tied. They played it overtime. First time ever they had to go to a second overtime. They don't play second overtimes in college hockey, right?
Right.
Oh, my God.
And BU came out on top.
They did, yeah.
And they'll be playing Northeastern next month.
In the final, right?
Yep.
All right, moving on. All right, moving on. One last thing for you. PB, little DYK. Speaking of the Bean Pot, who has the most wins in the Bean Pot history?
I have to see BU.
You are correct. They have 30 wins.
All
yeah,
right.
Absolutely. All right, man. I got one more DYK. Wait, go ahead.
Lately, Northeastern's been winning, right? They've won the last 2 Bean Pots, and they're going for their 3rd.
They're going for the trifecta tonight.
Yeah.
Yes, 3 in a row.
Monday, yeah.
You are correct. All right. Let me ask you a quick question. before we get into our agenda, can you tell me, and I'll ask you to wait, because it's going to take you a little time on this one, 5 pitchers that won a World Series game for the Red Sox and another team. Think about that. Mull over it. We'll talk about it. Right. NBA trade deadline. All right, the Atlanta Hawks, they got Clint Capella, a guy rumored, a big guy, tall, 7-footer, rumored to go to the Celtics. It didn't happen. He went down to Atlanta Hawks. I don't get it, but all right. Miami, they got Andre Iguodala, 3-time NBA champion for the Golden State Warriors, and former Celtic Jay Crowder. Marcus Morris, remember him? Another former Celtic. He goes to the Clippers. They now have 4 scorers. By the way, the Houston Rockets have nobody over 6'6". I don't know how they compete. Does this move the needle for any of those teams?
Yeah, I think Miami's the big winner here.
I would agree with you.
And right now, everyone in the East is just saying, how can we beat Milwaukee? Right?
Yep.
So we're trying to put people in place to beat the Greek Freak in Milwaukee, and if they can pull that off and get to the finals, that's what they're going for. But right now, they want to get the 2 seed, right? Because if you get the 2 seed, at least you don't have to face Milwaukee till the finals. And you could potentially, if you're playing one of those 7 or 8 seeds that are sitting there right now, I think it's Brooklyn and Orlando. You got a cakewalk in the first round.
You might as well play a high school JV.
right. Those teams like 10 games below 500, but they got a 7 seed. How the hell's that happen? But
man.
I think Miami's the big winner, and I had a chance to see Miami and the Celtics play down in Miami a couple weeks back.
You did? You were live?
Yeah, and the Miami dropped their 3rd game of the year at home, so they have a great home record. And the Celtics took care of them. But Miami's the real deal, and they got a good team.
What about the other team, Philadelphia? They had a couple complimentary players, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think they got too much talent to not be better than they are.
So let me ask you a question. Speaking of that, is the problem the coach? Should Brett Brown be fired?
That's a great question. I think there's a legitimate reason for that happening. I think if Philly doesn't get to at least the conference finals this year, maybe that's time to do that.
Man, all right. Andre Drummond, a guy I love. I've talked about it for weeks now. I wish the Celtics would get him. He's a rebounding and a shot blocking machine. He went to the Cavs. Sorry to see that. I don't know. But, PB, one thing to think about. Cavs have another big guy. His name is Tristan Thompson. He crushed us when the Cavs and the Celtics played a couple times in a row for the NBA's East Finals.
Well, part of that's, he's a good player, but part of that's we never really had a good big guy then either, And that's kind
of... In the history of the Celtics, we never won without a legitimate big-time guy.
Yeah.
Bill Russell, Dave Cowens, Robert Parrish, and Garnett, right?
Yeah. So those we didn't have any. Who was in the middle? Was it who was in there? Was it Orford? Who was playing center then?
And he's not even a center, right?
Right, but he was the biggest guy we had that was up against him in those series, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's.
By the way, Golden State Warriors, they're going to be the last place team in the year after being in the finals 5 years in a row. They get Andrew Wiggins for D'Angelo Russell. Believe it or not, I think they're going to be back in the championship next year. They're going to come in last. They're going to get the first round pick. And then everybody comes back healthy. Clay and Seth. And holy crap, that might be the route to go. Tank for a year. Get a number 1 pick. Have an all-star roster and be number 1.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Let's get right into the Super Bowl. We got to talk about this. We got Super Bowl reflections. I am shocked by the outcome of the game, but maybe not. PB, immediate thoughts. Did the best team win?
I think the best team on paper and statistically is top to bottom was San Francisco. But I will never count the Kansas City Chiefs offense out. They remind me of the Patriots in a lot of ways. Even when the Patriots had mediocre defenses at best.
Yeah.
But their offense carried them. And that whole theory of defense wins championships, that doesn't always play into effect. Look at all the Super Bowls the Patriots won. But besides the first 3, but the next 3 that they won, their defense was not that good. They stepped up and made plays, but statistically they weren't good defenses.
On paper, but last year's game against the Rams, which was ironically the most boring game ever.
Right.
People have said this game was boring. I didn't think this game was boring. Last year's was much more boring. But
didn't you feel like when the Patriots were doing their thing that even if they were down by 10 or down by 25 against the Falcons, you never really lost hope. And I kind of feel the same way when the Chiefs are playing.
Right.
You can't lose hope in them. Mahomes is too good.
Well, speaking of that, by the way, last week, if you watched the show, G-Money was here. We both picked the 49ers to win. But if you recall, Z said one little thing in his parting shot. If the game goes to the 30s, KC wins. What was the final score, PB?
31-20.
Oh, so I was half and half.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
PB, of course, took the Chiefs. And,
You did. You took the Chiefs. By the way, the most horrible call ever happened in the second quarter with 2 minutes left. 49ers are driving. Kittle catches a 42-yard pass, and apparently he flicked the defensive player on his shoulder, and he got a PI,
got
right?
no PI for it. Yeah, that was a bad call.
Do you
I mean,
agree?
Kelsey was rough on his routes, and he was doing. I mean, there was no reason why, especially in a Super Bowl, that play could have changed the whole
Well,
outcome.
think
of the
about
game.
that. If they get at least a field goal, right? That's 3 points. It's a 10-10 half. That's 13. Then they get the ball in the second half. They did kick another field goal at 16. But if they got a touchdown, it's a 10-point swing,
I
right?
know. Yep.
Which, by the way, the second thing we said last week, don't let KC go up by 10. Oh, my God. When it went up by 20-10, immediately my head started thinking,
Down by 10. Yeah.
down by 10. Sorry.
Right.
Down by 10. Problem. And sure enough, right?
I think they're the first team in the history of the NFL to win a Super Bowl and win in every game to get to the Super Bowl. They were down by at least 10 points and came back.
In the playoffs, correct.
In the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Other things we talked about last week, let me tell you about this. Besides the 10 points, we also said San Fran had to win with 4 rushes. If you remember, in the fourth quarter, they were coming 5, especially on that long pass play to Tyreek. 5 rushes came on that play.
Yeah.
So that one we said was correct. Next, we also said Richard Sherman, the mouth of the South. He had to control Tyreek. Tyreek had 9 catches for 105 yards. Where were you, Richard Sherman? What do you think?
He didn't come up and play in that game. There's no reason why Tyreek should have gotten 9 catches. That one play that you speak of, I mean, all you got to do is stay on him. That ball was lofted in the air. That was not a route.
It was like a punt.
That was like a punt. Exactly.
It was unbelievable.
There's no way.
Brady could have completed that. We know he can't complete long passes. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's not
The other
good
guy
defense.
that we said had to come up big for the Chiefs, and he did. He only had 2 tackles in the game, but he was in every play. It looked like Chris Jones. Was he a monster?
Yeah. He clogged up things and he made it challenging.
Oh my God! You know what? I did not give him enough credit. He is a monster, Chris Jones. But they might lose him. Free agency, we'll see. And finally, who was the better tight end on the field? I thought Kittle would outplay Kelsey, but
Yeah, Kelsey had a bigger day. I mean,
6 targets, 6 catches,
and a
including a
touchdown.
touchdown, right?
Yeah, I mean,
He was huge.
Yeah.
Although if Kittle gets credit for that 42-yarder at the end of the second
He
half,
would have had more yards receiving.
Different story.
But, that it would have put him more on an even par. But
different story.
Kelsey had the better day.
All right, the last thing we talked about, Jimmy G. We said Casey has to control. Casey has to control the run and make Jimmy G win the game. And guess what?
They did do that, and they let Jimmy G win the game or try to win the game, and he came up short.
If he only completes that pass to Sanders under 2 minutes left, down the field, it's either a touchdown or a field goal if he catches it and he gets tackled, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy G, I don't know. So, PB, I got to ask you this question. Now the wild rumors on the street. Jimmy G, who signed a $137 million contract last year, San Fran could cut him, and it only cost $4.1 million on their salary cap this year. Do you think he should be cut? Is it fair to blame him?
I mean, he'd be the number one guy to go after if that was the case. I mean, if you want to pay that kind of money, you got to pick up the contract, right? So,
But should San Fran throw him to the Wolves?
no, I don't think they shouldn't. I'm thinking that team had 4 wins last year.
Yes.
And they were in the Super Bowl this year, and he was hurt last year.
Yes.
So no, they shouldn't. And if he does, maybe
Does Brady go there?
maybe-
If they cut him, if they waive him, does Brady go to San Fran?
that's could you see Brady playing for San Francisco and Jimmy G coming back to the Patriots?
He is
That'd
from
be
that
pretty fun.
area, right? That's where he grew up, not too far away, right?
Yeah.
He's a 49ers fan, lifetime fan, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. All right, let's move on. I don't even want to think about this right now. Next year, immediate thoughts. Going into next year, we'll talk more about this in the next couple of weeks, but is Casey a potential dynasty?
Yeah. If they keep their players and they stay healthy, yeah.
All right.
And their defense is what's scaring me because their offense is awesome. If they start to put a good defense on the field, they're going to be unstoppable. So they could potentially be a dynasty. Who else is going to compete with them in the East?
I will say this. If they have to pay Mahomes, which is the rumor, $40 million a year, they're screwed. Because the reason why the Pats have been a dynasty is that Brady's never got the top price for a quarterback ever.
Yeah, but don't you think Mahomes can throw to scrubs too? Look at he's got.
You know what?
He's got McCole Hardman. He's got Sammy Watkins.
Good point.
He can throw to anybody.
Good point. You know what? I agree. But the problem is, who do they have to get rid of? They have to get rid of Chris Jones. They have to get rid of offensive linemen.
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill.
But that's what I'm saying. If Tyreek Hill's off that team, that's not going to change Mahomes' ability. He might give a safety net occasionally, like that one play there. But
so maybe KC, maybe you have a chance to be a dynasty. Yeah. We'll see. Win 2, and we'll talk about it.
You know who's my surprise team for next year?
Who?
Denver Broncos.
Oh, my God. In the coming weeks, we will talk about this. I'm afraid to hear more about this. Give me one quick reason why you think that.
Because Drew Lock in the last 5 games of the year,
he did show up.
He showed up.
Right.
He had more touchdown passes in 5 games than Flacco had the whole season up to that point. That defense is real. They got some good players. They got some talent.
We got some things to talk about in the coming weeks about the NFL. It's not over yet. And, as you know, we get the XFL to watch. All right. Before we get into the MLB and the Mookie Betts trade, I'm going to go back to PB and ask him, who does he think were the pitchers for the Red Sox? They won both for the Red Sox and another team in the World Series. What do you got?
I for sure Schilling.
Kurt Schilling, yes.
Schilling with Arizona.
Next year Hall of Fame.
Bloody sock with Boston. Beckett.
Josh Beckett for the Marlins, yes.
They won with the Marlins, one with the Sox, of course. And then Lester, right, with the Cubs.
John Lester, yes, with the Cubs. Broke the curse for 2 teams.
And then maybe did the Tigers win with Porcello? Or,
no, they did not.
Did Price win?
No, they did not.
I don't know. What were the other 2?
John Lackey.
Oh, with the Cardinals.
And Jake Peavy.
Jake Peavy's been around the block.
A long time.
Who did he win with?
San Fran, I believe. San Fran. All right. Let's talk about this Mookie trade. This thing was unbelievable. It hit Tuesday night, and it's not final yet, right?
No, there's some medical things going on right now.
The kid, Bradisol, how do you say his name? I can't even pronounce it. Gattersall, right? Bradisol Gattersall, who throws 102 miles an hour. He's got some juice, right? He's got a bad arm, a bad wing. There's a lot of stuff going on there. But in general, PB, David Price, probably the best pitcher on the staff last year, and Mookie Betts for Gattersall and this other kid, Verducci, how do you say his name? I can't even pronounce his name. For the Dodgers, he was in line beat rookie year before he got hurt. What do you think?
They're freeing up money, of course. They're
below the salary, luxury tax.
They've been paying out their butts in luxury taxes the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
I think they're the highest payroll. So they're freeing up money.
Right.
And they're getting some talent. And they're looking
at... In theory, they're getting talent, correct.
And you have to ask yourself, if we don't make this move, what happens when we go another 2 or 3 years and then have to try and get something for these guys? Or they're free agents and they just go. So I like it. I like that they're actually getting some young talent and some good talent into the organization.
Do you think they got enough, though? I mean,
no. This isn't. They're not going to win next year.
But given what they could have got from the Chargers, which would have been 3 or 4 prospects, do you just take one prospect and one guy who had a good rookie year and go with that?
Obviously, they got scouts out there looking. I don't know enough about these 2 guys to make that comment, but from a business standpoint, I think they're doing a good thing. From a baseball standpoint, like if you want to win next year, no.
So, PP, you are correct, though. The one thing from a business standpoint they had to do, the luxury tax penalty is for real. They were now 2 straight years over the luxury tax financial penalties. In your 3rd year, you get not only penalties financially, taxes, you also lose draft picks to restock your farm league. So it is a real pain. They had to do something about that. I agree with you on that.
And then what happens to ticket prices, to the concession prices?
Because we already have the highest ticket prices outside of New York.
And if you don't put a good product on the field and fans don't go, now all of a sudden you're operating at a loss. Like it's a tough gig, right?
All right. I got to ask you this question. Some of the stupidest things I've heard this week. This trade was akin to trading Babe Ruth.
I don't know.
Is Mookie Betts Babe Ruth?
No.
I mean, Mookie Betts and Babe Ruth in the same conversation? Boston Globe, Boston Herald writers? What are you thinking, Dan Shaughnessy? Come on!
the curse of the Mookie.
Oh, my God! And the other stupid thing I heard, PB, you're going to love this. Peter Abraham, he's a good writer for the Globe. He said the best talent since Ted Williams in the system. Ted Williams! He was brought up in the 30s. So 7, 8 decades later, he's the only talent we've ever had.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of crazy. I mean, you could make the argument that Rafi Devers is a talent that's untapped. He's guys what 21, 22 years old.
What about Yaz?
Yeah, I know.
Hall of Fame, best left field ever, Triple Crown winner, right?
Yeah.
Jim Rice, Hall of Famer. He's from the system, right?
Yeah.
I get it. He's not a positional guy. Roger Clemens, he's not in the Hall of Fame. He should be, but Clemens, outstanding, right? One of the best pitchers in the history of the game. And then I'll give you a couple names, even though they're not going to make the Hall of Fame because they left the Red Sox, one by choice, one because they got traded. Freddie Lynn.
Freddie Lynn, 1975, rookie center fielder. Unbelievable.
And what did he do? The only guy ever to do what?
He won Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Freddie Lynn.
Yeah.
He would have been a surefire Hall of Famer if they didn't let him go to the Angels.
The Angels, yeah.
And one other guy who I thought was a surefire Hall of Famer, and they
Dewey?
traded him, Nomar Garcia.
Noma, yeah.
Who, I know Derek Jeter going to the Hall of Fame a couple weeks ago. Nomar at one point in time, in my mind, was second best. A-Rod was first at shortstop.
I agree with that.
Oh, man. And then, last but not least, homegrown talent, Dustin Pedroia.
Yeah.
I know he's not going to be a Hall of Famer, but he won Rookie of the Year, MVP, and unfortunately, because of Manny Machado, I'll find you, Manny. One day, we'll find you on the street someday. Manny Machado takes him out.
With the spikes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, so, trade, what's your thoughts right now? You think it's okay because...
Yeah, I think that they'll, free up the money. They'll have their, younger talent, and they're going to be under the luxury tax. So
and to that point, they did give Mookie several chances. They gave him a number, and he said, I want to go to free agency, right? So apparently he didn't want to stay with us. I don't know. We'll talk more about it because what happens next week? It's spring training starting, right?
Yeah,
Pitchers and catchers report.
Packing
What?
up and going to Fort Myers. A couple weeks, right?
It's next week.
Is it? Wow.
All right. Any parting shots for the fans, PB? Thanks for coming back, being in the studio with us tonight.
Yeah. No, Bruins got Phoenix this afternoon, so go Bees. And
are they now the best team in the NHL?
They have the best record in the NHL.
And that's why we're wearing our B shirts.
Yeah, we'll talk a little Beanpot next week. We'll talk some more hockey, and looking forward to
all right, brother.
getting you next week.
Fans, thanks for tuning in.